All right, let the fun begin. Hello, people. Morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people. Thank you for your patience in that lobby for 2 minutes. And then I will make sure that we're admitting everyone. We're gonna have a nice rolling start into this one. I'll try and do a road call, but there are so many beautiful faces on this call. Kathleen, hello. Thank you for joining us today. Very excited for this one. Kian, John, Christian, thank you so much for the patience and joining us on that co-working session. That was really good. Nick, James, Hatton, Jerry, Chris, Dr. Elizabeth. We've got automators, we've got doctors. I love it. Dennis, Diego, hello, Connie. Santiago, Jason, Danola, VM, thank you for joining us. Back-to-back sessions. I like it. Hey, what's up, Jerry? Appreciate all the feedback. We're going to improve. We're going to make every one of these sessions as good as they can be. Dennis, I appreciate seeing you again. Oliver, and we've got a few other people as well. Hello, hello. Kathleen, testing 1, 2. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful. How are we today?
I'm well. How are you?
You know what? I'm very excited for today. We've got 30 plus people on the call. I've got a sneaky suspicion that's going to keep rising as we go through. So, um, hello, beautiful people. We have the superstar Kathleen back for round 2. This one with a little bit of a twist. I know your last masterclass was turning AI into profit, all centered on going from 0 to 10K. I think today what we're going to do is focus more on building a SaaS and you taking you through your journey and the SaaS that you've built.
Yeah, well, I figured the last one was about you guys and I didn't get to talk about me, so this one's all about me, what I've been doing.
Perfect. Well, I know you and Jack just recently did a podcast, so I'm not sure if that's actually got live. I know Jack was working to get it live maybe even today or yesterday, but that's even if that's not live now, that's coming out soon, right?
That was really fun too. Yeah. That was more of a theoretical like why I built SaaS. And I can do a TLDR for it, but like mostly it was about like all the different options we have in order to build and why I went this direction.
Okay, nice. And then today, I guess we're gonna go like tactical. What is the SaaS? We'll do a bit of a demo, and then we can roast it, look at it, ask questions. So I guess we're going diving into a bit more detail on it today.
Yeah, and because it's me, there's a slide deck. And I thought since it's SaaS, I didn't want to share all my blueprints. Sorry, love you guys, but I did want to show like exactly what I did. So I've got a bunch of screenshots, and I have a link to the presentation, so we don't have to do like nonsense screen grabs for everybody's desktops. So it's like a no opt-in at the end. I'll give you the links. And we can go through, and I'm happy to share anything behind the scenes, but like what I was building was what would have been helpful to me, which was like showing every single step of every single automation in it. So hopefully
Okay.
that's helpful. Hopefully somebody else's brain works like that. Otherwise, you have a presentation you don't ever have to look at.
No, super excited to jump in. So just so people are clear, how long do you think you need for the presentation? And do you want questions throughout, or should we put them into the chat and then tackle them at the end?
Yeah, I'm happy either way. But because of the way Zoom works and because I am one of those weirdos who doesn't have 50 screens, I can't see any questions that come up. Um, so it might be better if you just put them in the chat and then Adam, you can field them and we can talk through them at the end.
Yeah, let's do that. So questions in the chat, we'll probably have a good old conversation about it with everyone on the call, and then at the end we'll make time. Um, all right, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone else on the call, we're pushing 40 people now, which is beautiful. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Friday. Kathleen, over to yourself.
Thank you everyone for being here. Let me share my screen. Um, and actually I'm going to share the whole thing in case we do decide to go to make. And then we will maximize. And okay, so this presentation is all about how I built a no-code SaaS product using the tools from this group. So I wanted to show you the front end, my tech stack, and then we can get into the nitty-gritty. If I can get my screen going. There. Okay. The tool is called Glow Social. It's at glowsocial.com, and it's a platform that provides users with daily content ideas, ready to use social media posts, video scripts, hashtag suggestions, and Oh, that's funny. It says there's a library for reusing content. That's not how it works. But um basically, let me just show you. Oh, and a Prius, if you want to be an affiliate, I've got a generous affiliate program. Again, there's links and all of this at the end of this, but I am at first not going to grow through ads. I have done that in the past, and I decided that if I'm gonna spend that kind of money, I'd rather spend it with people versus giant corporations. So 30% of the subscription actually makes a bigger difference for humans than it does for any one platform. So the two automations that got me started, and I'll show you the front end, then I'll show you the back end. But the two that I like that I used as like seeds, and they're barely recognizable now, but are the viral social media content system. And again, there's links. These are links to those specific places in the classroom, and the tone of voice with AI. So what Glow Social does is in onboarding, it takes a writing sample and then does that meso, micro, macro tone of voice extrapolation, so that the AI writes in their tone of voice. Community has kept me going. I am not technical. I've been a marketer for 15 years. I have 3/4 of a computer science degree. And the reason I didn't finish the degree was because I couldn't get through compilers. And a very good friend of mine said, if you can't hack it here, this is the work, right? Like, this is what coding is. And I switched midway through my junior year into politics, which doesn't require any semicolons unless you're trying to break up a run-on sentence. So all that to say, this community has been invaluable. If you haven't reached out to me for some other reason than a billing question or something admin related, I am absolutely available. I don't have push notifications on school, so I'm not instantly available, but I would love to get to know more of you. I've made several good friends in the time that I have been in this community, and I really believe in the power of community. There's another community I just want to briefly mention. Andy O'Neill has a co-build collective where twice a week it's basically like an AMA. You come with, hey, here's what I'm working on, and he fixes it live. I know that I would not have been able to get as far as I did without that, because his brain works differently than mine does, and it was really, really helpful to get there. So here's what it looks like. So here's how it works. Every morning, users get an email. This is a screenshot from my email. And so I'm trying to talk about AI, generative AI, and how to use AI in work. So look at that. You get 4 posts with their titles, and then buttons that say login. My overarching idea for building software was try to make people do as little as possible. Low friction is better. So the magic link and stuff like that, instead of like making them log in or even adding like the Google OAuth or whatever, make it easy for them. They'll keep coming back. You want them to use your stuff. So then when they click the button in the email, they go here. And that's the post pipeline area. And then, so they get 4 a day, and some of them are going to be redundant because that's how news feeds work. And, like if it goes on an AP, Associated Press source, 2 different sources could run the same story. You don't need both of them or any of them. So they get 4 a day, which is more than they need. And then they can say, run with it or not this one. The not this ones just get deleted from the database altogether. The ones that run with it go here into the post pipeline. So these are some that I had run with before. We can maximize that here. And then once you get to that, you can, when you click, let's say we clicked on this, then you get, oh wait, before you click on it, so that's a good point. So there's this green button here. Again, you shouldn't make your people do too much reading, but sometimes they have to. So if they haven't yet connected to social media, they will do that here. They will link to LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or Google Business Profile. Those are the 5 we have now. There's more on my roadmap, but that's a good starting point. And then they link their accounts. They don't, I mean, there's an option to link to YouTube and TikTok. Well, as of this recording in the US. Um, and but they don't do anything. I don't have any video content asterisk yet. Um, and then they'll also set their schedule. So I have it on like a buffer situation where you have posting schedule, you pick your times of the day. You could post up to 4 times a day, up to 7 days a week. I think that's a little much, but here's where you can set your schedule. And then, okay, so then once they've done all that, then they go back to the post pipeline. And once they click the review button, they get here. And they can scroll, but we can't because this is all screenshots. And then what they see is like if they don't have any desire to post on Facebook, for example, they won't connect that and then it won't create content for Facebook. Because tokens matter, and even though these are fractions of a penny, if they're never going to use it, you don't want to spend the tokens to create it. And then they can edit anything they want. They can change it. They can change the status from reviewing to disapproved if they change their mind. They can upload a new image if they, for example, noticed that not all of these are actual words and they maybe don't want to send something about a no-brainer. But that's getting better. So then they can make it sound like all better. If you notice this, of course, I notice everything that's slightly wrong. I need to make it more explicit in my prompts to never do markdown because that doesn't work. So I will be doing that later today. And then there's the add to queue button. It's not really a good demonstration, but it adds to their social media queue, and then refreshes the page so that they can keep scheduling. Okay, that's enough preamble. I wanted to show you like what it looks like from the front before we get into the nitty gritty. But I know this crowd and I know that what we want to talk about are tech stacks and make scenarios. So my tech stack, the big ones are Make, but actually I have Boost Space because when I signed up for it, they were doing a one-time payment situation. And I am considering switching to Nation, or however you pronounce that. Do you pronounce it Nation or do you say N8? Anyway, but right now it's Make, Boost Space. You'll see, because I'm using Boost Space and they have like a very silly workaround that you have to like connect back to other things than Boost Space. You're basically not supposed to buy Boost Space and just use it as Make, but whatever, I did. And then I used Softer for front end development. I had tried another couple of no code tools, but I didn't like them because they weren't design focused. They looked like internal tools. And I know that people who care about scheduling social media need it to look nice. And I need it to look nice. So like no low code just was not going to work for me. You couldn't even change the fonts or the backgrounds, which a lot of people don't care about, but I do. So I like Softer. They're really great on support, although I believe they probably know who I am in support, which is it's not great for me. It's like I'm the known squeaky wheel. Like when I pop into the chat, I'm like, I bet they're like, ugh, I had her last time. You guys take her. And then I used Airtable. At first I was using Google Sheets, but you hit your like wall with Google Sheets pretty quickly. And Softer and Airtable are basically 1 and 1A. So I don't know if you know much about how Airtable charges, but I had started this whole thing on Airtable, and then I was going to add people to my Airtable account. But since I had paid annually, every time I added somebody, they charged me the annual rate, which was about what I was going to charge for the product itself. And so I was like, well, that's not going to work. So what could have been something that I delivered in a week ended up being something that I had to change so that everybody could log into it. And so that's what like Softer's whole thing is, that they are the front end for Airtable. And then there's more tech stack, the APIs. I use AirShare. This is my most expensive one, but it's the thing that connects to social media so that they can add to a queue. So I can have that buffer element in Glow Social, which I felt like was super important. The second one was OpenAI. I like OpenAI's API better than Claude's because it has more predictable outcomes. But also, there was one place where I had to reformat the JSON so that it wouldn't break AirShare. And I couldn't figure out how to do it because Make is really, really a stickler on no code. And so you couldn't say like only put the platform. So anyway, what I had to do there was I added a OpenAI module that said like, okay, take this and only if there's null values, remove them. And I couldn't do that programmatically because I couldn't figure out. So there's a couple of different ways I was using OpenAI. I'm using FAL for images. I'm using RSS.app to create my custom news feeds. I added Cloudinary because I learned the hard way, because there's no other way to learn this stuff, that you can't when you create an image in FAL and put that URL in, or you upload it to Airtable, that URL is temporary and internal, and so you need to like put it somewhere else. Anyway, and then I added SendGrid for transactional emails and the daily emails. But Glow Social runs on 9 different, relatively simple and straightforward, now that they're all working and fine, Make scenarios. Oh, I said this again. So you'll see there's a boost module that like if you're using Make and already paying for it and it's fine, don't pay attention to the man behind the counter, man behind the curtain. This one is like only so that they don't turn off my scenarios at midnight or whatever. So the first one is Stripe. This one's really straightforward. Once there's a subscription created, give it a second and then retrieve it and create a record in Airtable. Then populating the RSS and the initial 8 ideas. So everything runs from a webhook. I realize I should have showed you what those webhooks are, but they're all in Airtable. So like when some status changes or when a row is added or when like there's triggers in Airtable automations that then trigger Make webhooks. So that's where these get started, all of them. This one will get a record. So I've got a couple of different tables inside my Airtable. One is the onboarding, and then one is the content pipelines. The onboarding is all about the people, and then content pipeline is all about their daily posts. So this pulls both of those tables. It retrieves an RSS item or bundle of RSS item. Actually, this highlight means that it's doing it iteratively. So one at a time, it takes the RSS item, it creates a Perplexity summary. Oh, I forgot to add that to my tech stack. So yeah, Perplexity too. It creates the image in FAL. It gives it a second because it needs a second to go from, I don't remember, I think this is like 15 seconds, to go from creating to getting. And then it uploads it to Cloudinary and creates a new row in Content Pipeline. And then it does that for all 4 posts. And after it does that, it sends an email to the person with the one I showed you before. Then it adds them to a form, but I don't think that needs to be there. This is funny how much you learn when you're trying to show it to someone else. I think that's an old thing, because you don't need both SendGrid and ConvertKit unless you're. Oh, this is the initial one. So this actually you do. So this is the initial RSS. So they're getting added to a customer form, and then the last RSS time gets updated to right now, so that when it goes again, it's pulling only the most recent. And then, okay, so that's the first, the first real one. I feel like Stripe is like step 0. And then, every day, we do new post ideas. So, we are looking here for um, the RSS existing, because the creating the RSS is the least automated piece. I haven't found a good automated way to say like, okay, this is what this person wants to do, wants to build their authority in, and these are the topics they want to talk about, and can you build an RSS feed? That I feel like that needs, as of this recording, that needs a human touch, and so that's the piece that I'm doing myself. And when we have thousands of people come in, maybe I'll have somebody else help me with it. And then, so then every day they get four more. So what I wanted to do was what in that first email, I want them to see this is kind of the thing that you want, like, this is what you're going to be expecting. What I would love is to have a onboarding call so that we're going through it together so that you can say, oh, I don't like this and here's why. Not just the ones that are redundant, but like, I never want to talk about local areas that aren't mine or something like that, depending on who they are. So this is sort of the engine that they get every time. So it does not look all that different from the initial, and it shouldn't, right? But it's the daily four posts email. And then they get that every day. And that, like, I was initially hesitant about everyday emails, but they're actually really helpful because it reminds the user that they're paying for something and they're using it. And then if they don't get to it that day, then they're going to get another email the next day, and then they can take another couple of minutes to go through their posts. Okay, so then the post pipeline. So this is like after they click run with it, right? So that's what this webhook is. Once they click that green button, let's find them, and then we're going to set the temperature for OpenAI modules, because then they go through each of these. So if they have connected to Facebook, they get this run. If they've connected to Twitter, LinkedIn, Google, and Instagram, so otherwise, if they don't go through those. So we're not wasting tokens. And every one of these modules has a set variable, and a break. So you'll see breaks. I would put a break after every OpenAI call, every LLM call, and every HTTP call, because those are the ones where if you don't, you may not ever need them, but like they are free and you should, because those are the ones that'll break your whole scenario if you don't keep trying. And then after you've done that, you get all those variables, and then you pass them to, well, you create the video scripts without that, but then you're creating the hashtags, and then in Airtable, there's a formula here where it's like, if the length of Facebook text is greater than 0, add it to this cell. Otherwise, don't. And then I know I'm going really fast, but what I want to do is give time for questions and we can go deeper into it. But the onboarding piece is where we're connecting to AirShare. So like that profile stuff, we're creating a profile key so that they are a known quantity in that AirShare API documentation. If that doesn't work, I need to know instantly. And then we're creating their brand voice. Yeah, like I said, using a version of Jack's brand voice 1. And then this router is interesting because I learned with someone's help that each like make scenarios can trigger other make scenarios. So once like it'll link the account, it'll go to the link the accounts button, which I don't think we've touched on yet. And then it'll also add the brand voice to their profile. It'll send their welcome email. It sets their auto schedule. It launches the auto schedule scenario. And then this link your accounts. I love this one because it's like, this looks so simple and it was so hard. But you create these tokens, and you're basically just adding them to your AirShare account. And then and then the set auto schedule one was I believe I have more gray hairs today because of this um, than I would have. But it's great because when they can set their schedule, then everything else works well. So we're setting variables, we're pulling records again, we're finding the days of the week that that they want to post. We're for some reason you have to delete the schedule if it already exists, and then you set it up and you post and list it. This I think I would have paid a lot of money if Airshare had like a really good documentation on how to do this. And their documentation might be good if you speak API, but I already told you I'm a marketer. Um, and so that was really hard for me. But then the add to auto schedule one is also this is also one that got me for a while. But you're finding your user, you're getting their profile, you're listing their auto schedule, and then you're oh yeah, oh yeah. This is something I changed just this week because line breaks in Airshare are not like if you have it in Airtable and they look nice. If you don't do this piece, which is like I can show you, it's like a adding some sort of Unicode to because their new lines don't get recognized. Again, not something you ever think about until you're posting like a big chunky paragraph to LinkedIn and you're like, that's not what I wanted. So you have to like parse out the line breaks before you're adding it to your schedule. And then this is where I was telling you so there's the JSON for the post, but if you see here, there's different profiles. But what if, say, for example, I don't post on Twitter, which you can't see, but it's right there anyway. Then we need a way to go from Twitter equals null to Twitter doesn't exist at all because this module, this Airshare module here will break if you are adding it to a schedule and it's got a null value. But then you add it and it's posted and then it all works from the front end. Then the last one is they can delete posts that have already been added to the queue, but that takes a little bit more finesse than if they just say no at the beginning. I don't know if this is at all useful, but it has been useful for the way my software works. So that's it. If you want to get the deck, and I'm happy to keep sharing my screen, but go to glowsocial.com/BTS. There's a button there. There's no opt-in. I promise I don't need your email address. I love it, but you don't need to give it to me. But there are a few affiliate links in there. Because if I'm the one who taught you where Softr is, then that's great. You know. Do you want me to keep sharing my screen, Adam? Or should we go back to Talking Head?
That was beautiful, Kathy. So,
Thank you.
lots of questions in the chat, and I'm sure there's lots of questions. Maybe what we do is questions in the chat, let's address them, and then why don't we do a hands up system? So raise your hands. You literally go to React and put your hands up, and then we can tackle it that way. So there's some order to the myriad of questions that I'm imagining are coming through.
Perfect. Do you want to ask me them, or do you want me to look through them myself? Like, how are we doing this next?
All right, all right. Why don't you just go into the chat and fire away? I think it's your meeting, you own it. So if you jump into the chat, and then I'm here to help you facilitate. So why don't you just hop
Okay,
on in?
I'll stop sharing. Yeah, you have the lifetime deal with BoostSpace is pretty good. Oh, thanks, Danilo. Mix post maybe is a good one too. I am so far in the Airshare ecosystem that I'm interested in clicking that link, but I'm not going to. But it might work better for anybody else who's trying to do the same sort of thing. Okay, Florian asked, how much modeling what works approach have you incorporated in the prompting in terms of using well-performing LinkedIn posts or YT, I was going to say white YouTube video transcripts? from the niche of the user. So my prompts have, I mean, kind of like my scenarios, have undergone iteration after iteration after iteration. Most recently, adding like, here are some words and phrases never to use because mine kept saying in this increasingly digital era. And I was like, I just never want to hear that again. Not once. So I have like a list of like banned phrases and an output goal for LinkedIn that's like, what we're trying to do here is, and they're all different. I thought that my unique selling proposition, at least partly, was that I don't believe that you should write the same way on LinkedIn that you do on Instagram. So neither does this thing. So the prompts are, I want to say beastly. They're long and but they can handle, like OpenAI can handle it. So it, you know, the more examples you give it, the better. The more it knows, like LinkedIn, we never do emojis. And we always have line breaks here, here, and here. You know, like the better it is. So I would suggest a tool like Prometheus, because write a LinkedIn post is going to give you way worse results than the like monster that I have now. um, okay, what's the benefit of adding users to your Airtable account, and in what way is that necessary for the desired function? Okay, so my initial thought was that each user was going to have their own Airtable database, but that costs $800 a year, which is right around what I want to charge. So like I was like, I can't justify that. And so what I decided instead was that it's all part of the same base. But we have an onboarding table that's got their email that they use for login, which is helpfully called email to use for login. And that way they're all part of my database. So the biggest mental shift I had to take was the Airtable and Google Sheets are like the same, like Google Sheets and Google Docs are the same. Like it's not one-to-one. It's Airtable is much more like, and this is going to show my age, like Microsoft Access. It is a database, not a spreadsheet. Like comparison. Like even though you can see stuff in spreadsheet form, it's more helpful to think about like this is a database. And so in my database, I have information about my users, and then for each user, they all have the same like they all have the same content pipeline. They all have the same thingies across the top. Headers, thank you. But they only see the ones that are connected to their email address. So like I don't ever, like when I log in, I don't ever need to see the pest control guy's post because it's not my email. So there's a lot of like permissions there. Because like, yeah, because like in a spreadsheet, you have like the spreadsheet is like, this is Florian's spreadsheet. Like this is all you need is in this one spreadsheet, but it's different. And it's a big, like, I think Airtable has a non-zero learning curve. I was surprised at how much more like reprogramming, like what my brain could do, because initially when I was doing it, I had everybody in their own base, and that is not how you want to do it. The people at Software was like, no, do not do that. There you have one base per program, basically. I hope that helps. And then, oh yeah, high leverage activity to make sure that they're actually going to use my RSS feed, their RSS feed. Although I don't say RSS to my customers. Hatem says, why do they break the scenario, the modules that you mentioned? Oh, the ones that have, so with a break, so basically like if OpenAI fails, which I don't know if anybody on this call has had OpenAI fail, but I have, then the scenario stops. But if you keep at it, so I have it, my breaks are all, try it 5 times every minute for 5 minutes, or like, I think I said that wrong. That sounds like 25. But for every minute, try it again, 5 times. And so when, like, if you don't have that, then you're like, calling in on a wing and a prayer, hoping that it'll never, these third-party connections never, ever, ever stop working. And I was working in AirShare when Meta went down, and I was like, what's going on? And I was like, oh yeah, Meta's down. So like, it's easy to forget that they're also just like companies that have servers that could go down too. So make sure you have, anytime you're calling an HTTP or you're calling an LLM, make sure you have breaks that keep trying it so that it's less likely to stop the scenario and kick back an error. Okay, Sine, how many yeah. So the short answer is I'm not keeping track. So the question was, how much does it cost for me to run 4 posts per customer per day? So the long answer is you can figure this out. The short answer is I have been doing so much testing that I think there's just part of me that doesn't want to know how much I've spent in, in testing tokens. So, but in order to save that, it doesn't cost much to give my user the title and the image. It's less money to show them. And I was testing it out without the image and people weren't clicking through. So they need to see the image. I just think we're such visual creatures as humans. So they need to see the image in order to get it to get to that next point. But they don't we don't run all the scenarios. We don't fill it in unless they say, yeah, this is one I want to run with. So the short answer is it costs less than I did before I added that step. But I'm not keeping track, and I will, but I don't know yet. Diego asked if I can explain how scenarios trigger other scenarios. Yes. Not only can you create a webhook, but you can call a webhook. So you can do or you can do a post call to an HTTP module. Listen to me talking like I know what any of that means. But it's learning through Postman and ChatGPT. But basically, like the webhook, the webhook thing that starts it, is like pull this, like the boost gives me the webhook URL, and then Airtable can trigger that. But not only can it start it, but you can send information to a webhook that then starts another one that's like, okay, this is launching this, but then now the next scenario is started when that webhook data gets in, if that makes sense. How do you handle the connection to a customer account if he gives you his social links? Oh my God, what a great question. Because this stumped me. Like, how do I do that? Do I assume that everybody is going to also subscribe to his buffer? Am I going to actually connect? Am I going to ask them for their Facebook login? I do not want to do any of that. The answer is that's why AirShare is so expensive, because they have a scenario where I have unlimited through their API and $600 a month. I have unlimited access. I can add unlimited number of customers through their API so that they use their own OAuth, whatever connections, and it goes to a branded, it's through AirShare, but I can put my logo on it. And so when you click that button to connect your accounts, you're going to AirShare and then getting returned back. So that's the short answer. It took me weeks to get there. And then if the customer gives you access, do you post directly or still allow the customer to check if the posts are interested to them? Okay, so if you're doing this as a social media manager, which I have some people on as beta testers who are social media managers, they're going in and creating accounts for their users and not giving them to access to Glow Social, but showing them what it could look like if they have approved it. So because we're not handling the connections directly, because each of my users sets their times and sets their platforms, we don't do anything for them. They do it on their own. And right now we only have it set up to do on a schedule. We will add direct posting soon, but I really like the idea. I really wanted a set it and forget it. Like, I want to post Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 in the morning. Great. And here's how I want to do it. I'm going to set it all up so I do it this way. My pricing is it works out to $79 a month if people sign up for a year. And honestly, the reason that I have it set there, and I honestly I don't know if it'll change or if it's going to be something where we increase it or decrease it, but it's basically supposed to replace your social media manager, which you're spending $1,000 to $2,000 a month on. And you can get all this topical authority content for $99 a month or $79 a month if you subscribe for a year. So the answer is how we determined that was based on other platforms. What does Buffer get you? What does Hootsuite get you? And is there an added value of creating, like doing the research and creating the authority content than scheduling? And I believe there is. Am I putting every client in the same Airtable base, but just giving access to their own table within that base by assigning that user to the specific table? Chuck, yes and no. The users do not know that this is Airtable. They go to the Glow Social app. And so they're not in. So I only have 4 tables, one for Stripe, one for onboarding, one for the content pipeline, and one for product roadmap. That's it. So they don't have their own table, but because the content is linked to their account through in Airtable, they're called, you can like link to other tables and have lookup fields and stuff so that they're always connected. So they're only ever going to see their own content. But it is all in the same base and in the same one table. And thanks. How long does it take you to get it to go from start to finish, the build and the test phase? Okay. Those are good. 2 good questions tonight. It feels like forever, but 6 months. This was start to finish 6 months. I had something resembling the Airtable, like I could have delivered it for clients just through Airtable. If I was willing to spend that on them for Airtable, I could have had that in July. So from July to now, including several long days where I was banging my head against the wall. But I like, on the other hand, like on the one hand, it feels like forever. On the other hand, with the community, and I asked for a lot of help. I paid for some help, but I don't have a technical co-founder. I did all of this more or less on my own in 6 months. So it's really like, on the one hand, it feels really long because I really wanted to sell it like when I had it in Airtable. But on the other hand, like it's amazing what you can do with these like LLMs telling $20 a month, helping you out with stuff that's like, I don't know what this error means, and you should try this, and here's what the API says, and that's an error code. So like a learning buddy there. The tone of voice is in their user profile, and I can show you that. Oh wait, let me share. Did everybody get this? The BTS? I can put that in the in Zoom. And let's see. Let me show you the tone of voice. So this is your profile. So you can always like adjust things here. And that'll send an email to me. Posting schedule, link your accounts. You can open their Stripe portal here. And then this is the brand voice analysis. So this is what gets added to every prompt. make sure you adhere to this brand voice analysis. And okay, so that's that one. And then, so my thought was like, even if they only do the 7-day free trial, if they find the brand voice, like if they get to their profile, and I send emails telling them where stuff is, they can use that brand voice to like ask any of their LLMs to write in their tone of voice using their generative AI, just from taking that and saying like, write in this tone of voice, but give me an email about XYZ. Have I tried building my own interface instead of Softer? No. Nope. I have not. My thought was to get it to 100 customers, and because that's enough of a monthly recurring revenue to see if I want to take this to a developer. And then Sine, I did hire people. I hired some people from this community. I paid for a couple of hours of Andy O'Neill's time. I hired another person to help me with some of the AirShare stuff that I didn't understand. But one of the things that was frustrating about that was that I probably lost 6 weeks in my development process because the person that I hired, and they're great, like really, really great. I'm not gonna not gonna throw anybody's name through the mud anywhere, but they didn't do what I asked. They didn't do what the spec said, and the end product had way too many modules in it. So I thought, well, if they don't understand this any better than I do, it actually behooves me to understand how it all works so that I don't have to pay every time something breaks or every time something gets remapped, or like I need to know it cold. And it's much more easy to do with no code and stuff like this than like Python scripts or whatever. And then, okay, I said all the customers' content are in the same Airtable base. How do I plan on to manage all the records for every customer when I have so many users? I hope so too. And thank you. I love this question because it's one that I think about a lot. But the main selling point to Glow Social is that it's timely content. So especially with AI, in 3 weeks, nobody's going to care about a new model that came out 3 weeks ago, right? That's ancient for the AI, generative AI world. So I am, and then Airtable has, I think it's a 50,000 record limit for each table. And that adds up fast, right? At 4 a day, if you're turning all of those into posts, then that fills it up really quickly. But if you haven't logged in a week, you don't see last week's content. I don't want to overwhelm you. Because 4 a day ends up, if you haven't logged in over a week, you've got like a lot of back work to do. And I feel like even in industries that don't move as quickly as ours, I don't want it to feel like work. I really want this to feel like something that helps them. And so if they delete it, it's gone. If they don't log in for a week, the old stuff is gone. And then everything gets deleted even out of the database after 30 days. It does exist in AirShare. So if people want, if people are financial advisors or whatever, and they need to download that content, there's a way to do that. But I'm really cognizant of trying to keep the table length reasonable. Yeah, right. Does come in. I know. I agree. Okay, yeah, thank you, Dr. Lindsay. Let me drop my LinkedIn here. I would love to connect with everybody on LinkedIn. It looks like there's no more questions. If anybody wants to raise their hand or even just go off mute, I have a feeling we're not in a situation where like 30 of you are going to go off mute all at the same time. But thanks for being here.
Kathleen, this is beautiful, and thank you so much for the time. So, whilst we're waiting for the final couple of questions to come in, firstly, I want to ask everyone on the call to show Kathleen some love in the chat and say thank you for spending all these, showing us the software, answering all the questions. I know you've mentioned Glow Social. I know you've mentioned that you're part of the team, you're a moderator. We've got a podcast coming out with Jack, which should be live tonight, if I'm honest, if not, latest tomorrow. But if we want more Kathleen, what is the best way to go about that?
You know, I would, it's a different answer with this group than it is anywhere else. But just DM me on school. I am available.
Okay, beautiful. And maybe a final question. So you had the podcast with, well, from my side, and then we'll go to the chat. You had the podcast with Jack. I'm excited to watch that. There's going to be, I think, a lot of people who are going to come from the podcast, from YouTube, join the group and watch this masterclass. Have you got maybe something on the podcast that you wish you elaborated on, something you wish you went into further detail, something you wanted to clarify? I just want to ask if there's anything from that podcast, the conversation with Jack, where you thought off when you went off the podcast, man, I wish I mentioned this thing.
That's funny. It was such a fun conversation. I thought we could have talked for 3 or 4 hours. Jack's a really, really great person to chat with. We really talked about deciding what to build. And like you have like so this inflection point. It's funny because like I made what feels like today the decision to be broke, right? I picked software. So my maximum per person is $99 a month, right? So if you are building, if you're just trying to decide what to build, honestly, look at your bank account. If you need money in the next 3 months, become an AI consultant, start talking about what AI can do for people, show people flow charts, put those screenshots of like the scenarios out in the world. You will get a 4-figure client in the next 3 months. If you are building something longer term, if you're trying, like my impetus to build software that we talked about on the podcast long, but my whole goal was to build something that I don't have to be on for, because I went from like a high ticket coaching model to this, and that pivot is just like you're draining your account in order to do that. But you have to decide and you have to stick with your decision for long enough to see if it's going to work. Give it a year, give it 2 years. It sounds like forever, but goodness, if you dedicate all your time to being an AI consultant for the next 2 years, imagine how much more you'll know in January 2027 than you do right now.
Wow, so I'm super excited for this podcast then. So are you all in on this SaaS or are you juggling the coaching? I know you was on about a community as well. I think the last time we spoke on the masterclass, are you juggling all of it or are you all in on the SaaS?
All in on the SaaS. I can't do it any other way. If this
Wow.
doesn't get my whole attention, it's not going to get any attention. So that's my bet right now, and only time will tell if I am a fool or a genius.
Okay, this is beautiful. Excited to see the journey. Well, maybe we can be of support. So maybe a question to you, Kathleen. Is there any way that the people on this call and listening and the people in this community can support you with your SaaS?
Yeah, sign up to be an affiliate.
Nice. I love that. Okay. Absolutely. Well, Kathleen, if you need help, I mean, you've pretty much got it locked down, but anything, testing it, signing up, promoting it, just let us know. We want to support.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Kathleen, that was amazing. Everyone, have a beautiful rest of your Friday. Have a good weekend, and we'll see you on the next call. Thank you so much, everyone. Kathleen, thank you. Take care. Bye bye.